Doom from 1993 is still remembered fondly today. Next to Wolfenstein 3D, it was like the grandfather of the FPS genre as we know it today. Of course, it was a PC game, and ideally, you'd have a good enough PC to play it on. But not everybody did, and that's where the console ports came in. And they don't stop coming, 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 and even to this day, they're still making ports of this game. There's a certain uniqueness to how this game functions as opposed to most FPS games today. It's less about ducking behind cover and more about being constantly on the move to avoid getting hit. It's a subtle art and an exact science that triggers a phenomenon in your brain. It's not a perfect video game, but it's still pretty damn good. Then you have the Super Nintendo. This is a great console known for plenty of games. Many people hold it to be the greatest console of all time. Of course, this is a console designed to put out bright, colorful, cartoonish sprites for games like Mario or Kirby. So how exactly do you make this console play an ambitious 3D FPS game? Well, you don't. Except they did, for some reason. Yeah, they managed to put Doom on the Super Nintendo, which is an incredible feat. No, really, that's awesome. Only problem is, it kinda sucks dick. Doom on the Super Nintendo should be applauded purely for the monumental undertaking that it is at every level. It was made using the Super Effects chip, which was used to power Star Fox. There's no way the Super Nintendo could do this without it. The first thing you'll notice is the graphics. They're pretty gross. And in case you're wondering why the screen is so small, no, that's not a glitch. That's literally how the game is rendered. And just for clarity, every game I showed is being played on original hardware, including this one. You got these dummy thick pixels which make shit impossible to see half the time. This wouldn't be as bad if you were playing on a computer with the monitor up to your face, but this is Super Nintendo. This is sitting on your couch drinking a beer and watching the TV. It's not quite as excusable in this situation. The next thing you'll notice is the frame rate. It is atrocious, but for a 3D game on the Super Nintendo, that's something you kinda have to expect. But this shit literally runs at like 8 to 13 frames per second most of the time, and as a direct result, the controls suffer because of this. The delay between pressing a button and the action happening is like an eternity. Turning around to aim at someone outside of your line of sight is the most painful thing in the world. Every single action in this game is like pulling teeth or removing an ingrown toenail with box cutters. It's just intensely painful. Sometimes you get stuck on a goddamn wall or some 2D object you didn't see because it's outside of your field of view. This is one of those games where you actually press the button harder, hoping and praying that he'll just go a little fucking faster. Or at all. Well, if you hold B, he does sprint, but that doesn't fare much better, especially when they start introducing hazards like falling off of a ledge into a pit of acid or whatever. Then there's the dumbass Berserker mode. In regular Doom, Berserker mode is awesome because you can run around punching the shit out of demons, but you can't really do that on the SNES version. It's already hard enough to run around and aim at people with guns in this version, but trying to do the same with melee is fucking impossible. Before you turn around and get in a decent, accurate shot, the fucking guys just rip you to shreds. It's garbage. This is actual garbage. And the rocket launcher. Just fucking forget about it. Unless you're 87 light years away, you will just kill yourself from the fucking blast radius. It's such horseshit because I drained this chain gun and it automatically swapped to the rocket launcher and I started freaking out and frantically tried swapping to a different weapon, and this son of a bitch came in and just clawed me to death before I could do anything. As a principle, I recommend only using it if you have an invincibility power-up. And what I just said was basically true of the original Doom as well, but it's even worse here because it's combined with all the other shit. One of the coolest things about the original was circle strafing, which is a very simple and subtle thing that works very effectively in combat. Basically, circle strafing is when you strafe in one direction while simultaneously turning in the opposite direction, creating this circular motion around an axis, which ideally would be an enemy in practice. It functions as a great evasive maneuver, while also allowing you to actually shoot the enemies at the same time. Because of the way the SNES version is designed, circle strafing is not possible. You either aim or you strafe, but you can't do both at the same time. The closest you can get is to turn in one direction while rhythmically tapping the shoulder button in the opposite direction, but it's nowhere near the same and the effort required makes it not worth it at all. As I mentioned earlier, one of Doom's biggest selling points, and one of the things that makes it so great even to this day, is its movement. So when you remove such an integral thing like circle strafing, it's now a different video game altogether, and frankly an inferior one, I must say. The original Doom always had genuine fundamental flaws, like how once all the enemies are dead, it devolves into a where the fuck do I go kind of game where you don't know where the fuck to go. But when you combine that with all this other shit, it basically pushes the game over the edge into Gahbidge Town. I especially love it when I have no idea where to go, so I take a leap of faith into a lava pit, thinking and hoping, frankly, that there might be a secret door or a switch somewhere down there. And there isn't, and there's also no fucking way out, so I'm just pressing every wall hoping to fuck that it'll let me out, but there's no way out. If there was no way out, why waste my time by taking 5 damage per second? Why not just kill me instantly if I couldn't leave? I know why. To waste my fucking time. Remember the water temple in Ocarina of Time? In Doom, every level is the water temple. You run in circles, scanning every wall for a switch you might have missed, and if you do find a switch, it opens some door somewhere and you gotta run around looking for it. I feel like people are too afraid to admit this about Doom's design, whether it's because of nostalgia or because they don't want to sound like a scrub. I don't know. Anyway, I don't give a shit what you think of me. These moments suck balls and make me want to run headfirst into oncoming traffic. There were 2 levels where I got permanently stuck because of a door that suddenly decided that you can't open it. Yeah, imagine 2 levels having such a fuck up like that. Well, it turns out that these bugs are actually present in the original version too. Damn, what the fuck were they thinking? But let me bring our attention back to the Super Nintendo port specifically. Another weird thing about this port is that the AI is really dumb. The enemies are completely deaf. They cannot hear your gunshots. They will only engage you if they actually see you. If you have invisibility, you can literally just walk up to a group of enemies standing there and shoot them down like bowling pins one by one. It's kinda funny. As expected, a lot of the sound effects are compressed and not all of them are intact from the original game. The music, however, is fucking badass. Just listen to this. Well, there is one song that sucks, and that's the Cyber Demon stage. Sounds like it was played on a harmonica or something. At first, I thought this version had only one difficulty. It doesn't start you with an option menu, it just throws you into the water. I kinda just assumed there was one fixed difficulty. I was wrong. In order to select your difficulty, you need to pause the game, select New Game, then you can select the difficulty. Why couldn't they have just given you an options menu before you start the game? The title screen shows up for like a few seconds and has no options on it and then disappears. I literally played through the entire game on the default difficulty because I didn't realize you had a choice. Granted, with these degenerate controls and technical problems, I don't know why you'd want to turn up the difficulty unless you're some kind of masochist. So yeah, I played on some nightmare difficulty for a bit. I guess since I'd already beaten the game before discovering this difficulty, I'd already gotten used to the bullshit factor, so it wasn't as painful. I mean, don't get me wrong, it kicked my ass, but I think I could have done worse. Although I feel like they made the game easier on the whole, technically. A lot of enemies, even bosses, take way fewer hits than in other versions, to my memory. What's really impressive about this game is how few compromises they made, with the obvious exception of graphics and frame rate, but the vast majority of content is there. Most of the levels are intact. I think a few are missing, but most of the good ones are there, all the way up to the spider demon. And you know how much I love those. You have all the weapons as far as I know, and it didn't even fall victim to Nintendo's notoriously asinine censorship measures. All the blood, the gore, the satanic symbols, and the words hell and badass, it's all there. What's even more impressive is that it was compatible with the Super Nintendo's X-Band add-on, which is an add-on that connected the Super Nintendo to the internet. It was also available for a few other systems. DooM was one of a few games that was compatible with it. Yeah, 2-player online deathmatch on a Super Nintendo game. No joke. Unfortunately, I don't own that, and I don't know anyone else who owns it either. And even if I did own one, and even if I did know someone else who owned one, and someone else who also owned DooM on the Super Nintendo and a Super Nintendo, somehow I doubt it would work because the service doesn't exist anymore. But what a neat thing. For what it's worth, DooM on the Super Nintendo is a very impressive feat, and I guess if you were a kid in the 90s and you didn't have a PC, or at least one decent enough to run the original version, this would have been an option. But if you did have a PC, you'd better have had the original. The number of shortcomings this game has are so substantial that it's not even the same video game anymore. Like, yeah, it's an impressive technical feat, but game-wise? Like, no. I mean, no. Just play like Kirby or something, I don't know, just not this. God damn.